should users be worried about too much privacy invasion, and should businesses think about this and what their staff might let slip, either through obviously this sort of government attack, or indeed through apps, because there's a question, isn't there, about apps and the amount of data that they allow you to share willingly or unwillingly, perhaps through location settings. So it might give away that someone is in a particular company, having negotiations. If Steve Ballmer was perhaps to tweet things showing that he was in the Nokia headquarters ahead of the merger, that would be slightly unfortunate, wouldn't it? Just give us some of the thoughts here about the importance of data privacy and knowing and unknowing.
Well, the first thing is the exposure of all this data is going to make us a much more successful society in so many ways. It's so valuable to have this data used in our interest for us in ways that we approve to deliver value that we like. So we have to unlock all this information. The problem is there are always people who will use this data in ways that we don't like. Certainly governments like to collect this information and potentially use it to decide whether or not we should be on a list. That means we have to go through the slow line at the airport check-in every time. That's a small example of the kind of things that happen to us. Certainly I find it interesting that Google was listening, not Google, the NSA was listening in on Angela Merkel's phone. I'm not quite sure how they did that, but there we go. So you're in a society where you can be seen, you can be watched, you can be tracked at any time. Sometimes it's because someone wants to deliver real value to you. Sometimes it's because they want to sell something about you to someone else who either wants to deliver value or wants to hire you, or maybe wants to visit your house when you're not there because they think you might have some things that they would like to take with them.
If you look at it from for instance, a wearable device perspective, one example that comes up quite often when you talk to health providers is the idea of being able to monitor your activity and associate that with your health plan. Would I want that? Would that put enough pressure? You know, January 1st, I might think, yeah, absolutely. That's going to be my New Year's resolution. I'll do that. I'll get to the gym. Comes February, I might regret that because my plan is going up because I've been to the gym once. But from an employer perspective, that is something that they can collect so that they can use for, for the company health insurance.
You know, we're seeing that in the US now. We're seeing health plans that incent the employee to be fitter based on measurements and tracking. The problem is the incentive is only a few dollars a month. So most people really aren't going to care. It's when it gets up to a few $100s a month that it starts changing behavior. And certainly I know from living in the US, if something isn't done about the health of its citizens, the US is going to sink under healthcare costs in the next 25 years. I'll be part of it.
Interesting concept. So we've been talking about smartphones and we've seen some of the interesting technologies that are around. So just to sort of wrap up that element of it, just for the smartphones, just give us a picture, Martin and Carolina, of how we should expect the development of smart devices to go in the next 4 years or so. Take us out to 2017. Tell us how things are going to move.
There's two sides of it. There's the development from a technology perspective and the things that we can expect in that part. And then how consumers, users are going to see the market develop and what does that do to the vendors that play in the market. Do you want to talk about the technology and I'll take the business side?
Well, we're at a point now where smartphones have broadly stopped moving forward at a truly fantastic pace. It's now about, you get a better camera, you might get some new materials, it might have a slightly faster processor, but we're not at the point now where we're seeing these quantum jumps in capability of smartphones. That innovation is slowing down because there's little extra we can do. We can make them bigger, phones that fit inside.
We can talk about colors.
Yeah, make colors. So what's going to happen is the value of the smartphone is going to shift. As we've been discussing, it'll move away from the device and it'll move into the cloud and services that are driven through that device to help you lead a better life. That's how your use of the smartphone will change. And we see that making it very, very difficult for the smartphone vendors. As users feel they don't need to churn their phones as frequently, as the price of phones continues to come down, we'll see them enter into that technology curve where pricing kind of collapses and we see a shakeout in the market. We saw it with PCs. Anybody here got a plasma TV that they bought 10 years ago and wish they'd waited? Right, you go to the store now, you get a 55-inch for what, $500? And we'll see it with smartphones. So it's going to put tremendous pressure on the vendors of these devices over the next few years.
And the value of a brand is also going to change. As a consumer, as we get into the smart devices and into cognizant, who am I going to give credit for my life being smarter? Is it going to be the device vendor, or is it going to be the service provider? Or is it going to be who is collecting the data? You start already to see today that consumers are getting more interested into the ecosystem, the number of apps, and how it connects to different devices, but not the actual brand of the hardware itself. And talking to Martin's point, because technology is slowing down, the development of technology is going down, and the value is shifting, you started to see vendors like Apple, who never really made a lot of money from a software perspective, and had all their revenue coming from actually the hardware, so add value to their hardware, give their software out for free. Because it's becoming more important that as I buy my new iPad, I run the latest OS version, so that the developers can then develop applications that I can take advantage, and that 360-degree package and view of the world is delivered to me, and therefore I get more into the brand, more into the ecosystem. Hardware alone is not going to sell to consumers anymore.
So we're coming towards the end of our time. We're going to leave some time for questions just at the end. But